Jefferson Robbins here with NCW Life. Mayor Frank Kuntz is leaving the office of the city of Wenatchee after 12 years. A new mayor will be sitting in that seat. One of the folks who wants to fill that office joins me now. Mike Poirier, member of the Wenatchee City Council. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You have Mayor Kuntz's endorsement as the candidate to replace him. You've also praised his work as mayor, said he's done a good job. What does Mayor Mike Poirier do differently from the Frank Kuntz administration?
So first of all, Mayor, you said he's endorsed me, and he is. He believes he knows what I've done in the past, I think, and I think that's the key. And it's okay. Him and I, we both try so hard, which is nice. But the transparency is, we do everything legal transparency. There's no question about that. But I believe in trying to get information out better. And I do know we're looking at a website actually to change, but it has to be, the mayor has to be out there all the time. And Mayor Kuntz is out there a lot. But I think there's a form of government, and some things happen actually, like you mentioned earlier about last night. And I think so transparency, and this housing crisis is unbelievable. And where do we start? And there's some neat things, but when you have one program, you need 100 more to get this to work, and we're all doing it. So definitely affordable housing is obviously homelessness, and that's something that needs to be addressed more and more and more. And this is tough. It is a tough deal. I heard last night actually that if it's accurate, somebody gave away 5 motorhomes that they had in their yard, towing yard, and gave them to people, and now they're sitting in our city. Well, that's not right. You know, that's not. We got to think of health and safety, and I don't know if it's health and safety to be in a too old of a motorhome that doesn't have functioning water, or we can't deal with all the aspects of it. And motorhomes aren't designed to sit there for all to live in them all year long.
And the council with you on it in the past year has passed an ordinance removing living in your vehicle as an option on the streets of Wenatchee. You need to be someplace that vehicle needs to move at times, et cetera.
It's great, and we're talking about the homeless. So right now what's getting implemented is some signs that you're going to start seeing at the parks, and these signs are going to say no trespassing. And that's something we're getting finally the steps. The city council, the current city council, and the mayor, current mayor, we finally got to some steps. Now we can actually push some issues here. We got to remember though, there are mom or dad, brother, sister. It's people that they're human. So we got to make sure we understand that correctly, and we need to make sure we take care of our share. And that doesn't mean we allow other cities to say, okay, well, you can just take them. That's not the way it is. And we need to make sure we contact other cities that if they are transporting people here or only give them enough money to get here, that's not the right thing to do, because they need to be where their family's at and where their city's at. And I think sometimes we forget that. Again, we need to be responsible for our own, but not for other people's. And every city and county needs to take care of their share. So
how do we determine the residency, though, quote unquote, of a person who is without housing? By definition, they are not residents anywhere, in a sense. So how do you treat that person with the kind of dignity they deserve, and as a human being, while also paying attention to where they're from?
So one thing that I want to do after I'm mayor that we're not currently doing, we're kind of hit and miss. I want all of our community member groups for not just housing, but like even if it's the YMCA or it's the YWCA or SAGE, these organizations. Actually, my goal is either once a week or whatever. We're actually going to go to where people are at. And say, you know that we have services here. You know we can help. And I'm not. I know that's an approach that will help, even if it helps 2 people every week. And if we continue that, instead of sitting there waiting for them to come to us, we actually do go out to them. I think it makes total sense. If you're on the streets and you have a drug problem, and you can sit there and a counselor's talking to you or somebody's talking to you that has experience and expertise, and they go, we have options here. And people want to be loved. They want to be cared for. Not cared for, it's not a responsibility to enable them by any means, but it's definitely our responsibility to say, here's some services, let's get you back on your feet. And I think that's going to help with a majority of that, especially if we're out there every week with these groups. And that's something that I'm excited about, because that's a way we're going to get homeless guidance, and we're going to get some homeless in a different direction, and we're going to get some homeless help to realize, where's your family? If somebody says, hey, my family is in Moses Lake, then really some of these services could contact maybe their parents or their loved ones, say, hey, your loved one's here, and try to maybe reconnect, and make it, it's humanitarian. I mean, when it's all said and done, we all want to be back with people that love us. And I think that's one option, one of 100 options that we can do to help with homelessness. So,
do you see things like the homeless low barrier push, the pallet shelters, the safe park for mobile homes? Do you see projects like that continuing under an administration if you were elected?
So right this today, 40% of the people in the Safe Park 1 and 2 actually have jobs just like us. They get up, they might have a different job. They might be working in the orchards, but they get up at 4 in the morning. They have jobs. And so they just can't do it because they don't have enough money. So what a great opportunity. It'd be awesome if we could have 80% of those people in that park that are progressing. And that's the deal. You have to progress in this. I see more during my administration, I see more that we hold people responsible. Now, holding people responsible is going to be a little bit different for each individual. For you, it might be to make sure I wear my coat and tie today. Well, because you have an interview. For some people, it might be get rid of one of my 10 bikes on top of my car. But if they do that and they're progressing, that's a great thing, because then we're getting somewhere. So that's kind of, so the answer is yes. I want to continue the safe parks. I think there needs to be changes on it, and the low barrier pallet housing, which should help with 88 people, allow us to do some of these things back to no trespassing in parks. And down on the south end by the river, we actually, people are digging in, just so you know, which you probably do know, but so people know they're digging into the ground and ruining our environment. It's erosion issue. Well, the city's going to come along, and we're going to work on cleaning that area up. And so when there's people down there living there, and we got to figure out, okay, where do we go from here?
And our riverbanks are precarious places to try to live, because there's flood risk, there's just falling, there's drowning risks, and in the reclamation district area, they sometimes send excess water out through their pipes near the pipeline bridge, and those people could be very badly hurt.
Health and so to me, I'm hearing health and safety. And so there's people, when they go to the bathroom, they're putting it in a bucket and they're throwing it in our rivers. Well, that's not right. Again, that's not fair for our environment, for the majority of the people that we're trying to do what's best for our city. And so that's happening. That's going to be happening within the next couple of months. It'll definitely happen. It'll be at the beginning, but when I'm mayor, that's going to continue. We need to continue those programs. So, and I don't think it's a lot of money, and I don't think people mind city's money being spent if we are helping with homeless to find where their home really should be. I think that's what it's hard. We're tired of it. But we got to, again, go back and remember this is your brother, your mom, your sister. But do it with dignity, but also do it. We need to do that, yes.
You talk about people who are living without shelter, but also are working. That kind of question sometimes applies even to young professionals, people in good paying jobs. They try to move to Wenatchee to take a nursing job, a teaching job. they can't find an affordable apartment. Um, what kind of steps can the city take under your administration to try and keep housing that's affordable and build our supply of affordable housing for people just starting out?
Yeah, there's an organization, and it's called Common Ground, and the executive director, I think it's Tom Neese, I believe it is. And I've met with him like 2 or 3 times, and the more I understood it, and we went actually from item to item, and he's creating you have to qualify. You only can make so much money, and then you qualify for a home. The HUD program or a vet program had it, I remember, 25 or 30 years ago, and it really worked. So if you qualify for this home, then you get into this. It's a cute little home. I've seen all the diagrams of it. And then there's going to be I think eight built here in the next year or so. And they're getting some money from federal. They'll get some money from federal plus private. And how that works, it's really a neat deal. How it works is that has to be a certain income. Let's say it's $60,000 a year. So today's nurse might make $65,000. I'm not sure what a nurse would make, but you're right. Nurses get jobs here, and they leave the same week because they can't. They're like, I can't afford housing here. It just doesn't make any sense. So there's definitely a need there, obviously. But anyway, so what happens is when you sell this home, first of all, 60% of the people in it, because this program is going on in other cities, 60% of the people actually get a market house. They'll actually move out, and they'll move out, and then they get to take some of their equity and go, and then it goes to the next person. So this is you can stay there your whole life, but 60% of the people will actually move out. And this is a neat idea because it's going to be like you and I on our starter home. So right now, if I came in Wenatchee when I was 23 and had a job, I couldn't afford a home. I couldn't afford the starter home. I don't know what it is, 400,000 or something like that. My budget wouldn't have allowed me at that time. So anyway, that's one of one program that is really impressive, and we should really get behind that. So the other thing is tax incentives, of course, and the city. And I push this. We're getting rid of or re-looking at the 8-year tax incentive. And we want more of a tax incentives that mandates if you're going to build a home and you want apartments, excuse me, and you want this tax incentive, then you have to have a certain percentage of affordable housing within your apartments.
Right. The example that comes to mind is the Red Apple Road development. Now in 2021, that was greeted with some fanfare by the city. They were going to have a 12-year tax exemption in exchange for making all 84 of their units affordable to renters who earn 80% or less of the city's median income. 2 years go by, the developers come back to the city council, say, this isn't working for us, and also, by the way, it was a paperwork error in the first place. The city council then votes to lift that requirement. Now all 84 units will be market rate units. You were among the council members who voted for that when it was brought to you. It was a big discussion. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so that's hurts. It hurts so bad to, I'm going to say, allow them to not be forced to do it. The reason I said it's okay for them to do it is because right now you can go to the city and they can get it anyway. So the problem is it never got off our books. So I believe in fairness. So the fairness of it is they never did get any tax break on it. And if you went in there or we went in there right today, we could still get that tax break because it's getting eliminated now, but you could have it. If that was already eliminated, I would have said, no way, you sign this piece of paper, you're responsible for it. What would have happened is if we would have said, no, we're going to hold you to it, they didn't have to by law continue it. So they would have there would have been market housing anyway.
At that point, 2 years after the initial announcement, there was still no binding agreement between the city and these developers.
They did not have to do, that's correct. There was no binding agreement that they had to fulfill their part of the agreement because it wasn't, it's after they're done. and that was the issue. And they whatever reason, if you're building apartments, really filling out the wrong box isn't a valid. It's not a valid excuse. The to be, but I had to go with for me had to go with if they walked in tomorrow, they're allowed to do it, and so they'd be allowed to do the 8-year program, and that's what I wish it was off the books before they came. If it was off the books before they came, I said, too bad, you signed it. It's a bummer. It's part of the business. So I had to go with fairness with everybody, but it is getting reevaluated. And actually, regarding the tax, I want to look at existing apartments. We have some people that have older apartments, and their rents are actually, $1,100 to $1,200, and I'm wondering if we can use that. Some of that incentive. I'm not sure how to put it in play. I'm actually talking to a couple people that have dealt with this before, but somehow on our books, maybe we could give $100 credit or something for a few existing apartments, and you'd have to qualify somehow and hopefully then lower their rent. And I've actually talked to a gentleman that has like 12 places above a commercial property, and I think his rent was like $1,200, for some reason $1,200. And I asked him, I says, if you still made the same amount of money, would you reduce people's rent if it affect on your taxes? And he says yes, he would look at it. So we got to look at what we're doing now and what we can do for the future.
Well, in 2018, Mike, you represent one council district on the city council, and in 2018, when the city adopted council districts, you voted for it, but in a sense, by doing that, you were kind of eliminating your own job because you knew you weren't going to stand for election in that new districted system. So why did you think districted elections were a good idea for the city?
There were some cases, lawsuit cases, and my understanding at the time, it was up to $10 million lawsuits that were happening. And I need to make the city more important than myself. And I knew there's some city council people that were like, no, we don't want to do this. And I says, well, we got to do what's best for the city. So to me, I justify it. I did not want to be off the city council at the time. I voted myself off the city council. So, and I knew that at the time, to potentially save a $10 million lawsuit based on that we weren't doing equal representation for our community. And what's going on now, as you know, the school board, what are they doing this year? They're doing all districting. And they're doing districting because they know they're not fulfilling their obligation. So lawsuit really drove, the lawsuit thing was the big power behind it. And I had to convince a couple other city council people that didn't want to do it, that says this is the right thing for the city. We need to look at, people want to do things about what I'm finding out. People want to do things for the city and the community. And if I ask you, and you'll say, no, I won't. If I ask you, I say, hey, next Tuesday, can you help me out for an hour because we're going to go down, because you're a counselor or something like that. And I say, hey, can you come over here and help me with this? You're going to say yes. People want to be asked. I really believe that. I really believe people want to be asked. And every time I ask them, I think it's a sign of leadership also. Say, we need your help with this. And they're like, okay, let me find the resources. And I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about your time. And it's because we care about this community. And I think that's a special thing we have in Wenatchee. I think I can go to 80% of people in Wenatchee. And I think people want to be wanted, and I think people are going to say yes. And I think people do say yes, but they need to be asked. And that's a responsibility, again, transparency or outreach of the city. That's exciting to me. You don't know how great Wenatchee is until you really get involved. Yeah.
And do you think districting encourages more participation rather than the at-large system we used to have?
More participation in our community? I don't see it. I don't see that we get more participation because of district. I do see a little bit of the people will go to their person that represents them in that district. I like to think of little things as a whole community. versus districting. I like to see it as the complete city. If you're in district, I'm in District 2, but if you're in a district that needs sidewalks, and then we have these districts, and then you have other people maybe fighting for the money or saying, no, you know what, I want this one redone. Well, this neighborhood here doesn't have any sidewalks. This one already has sidewalks, and then so it puts the person representing them in a tough position. And I like that more, where where's our need in the city versus, and we don't get a lot of that with the current city council, but sometimes there's that back feeling like, hey, I'm getting supported by my district, but I want to see it as a whole. So I don't see, I don't know if I see a lot of representation by doing district. I just didn't see it, you know.
Well, Mike, in your professional job, you're an insurance agent. And in 2020, you entered a consent decree with the Office of the Insurance Commissioner, and you were fined $3,000 for unilaterally switching clients' homeowners' policies from one insurance company to another without their knowledge or consent. That's according to the language of the consent decree. What happened?
Well, it's I don't know if I can mention the companies or not, but so you know what was going on is I was trying to do what's best for the customer, and I believe even to this day I was doing what's best for the customer. And what I have a total of 4,000 customers, and I believe it was 25 customers. What I was trying to do, one company was struggling on paying a certain claim that I believe should have been paid, and I didn't want to represent that company. I didn't think it was best for our customers, so I was trying to move those customers over to the other customers. There was never any lapse in coverage. They all signed. Anytime somebody gets transferred over, they always sign the application, and it was a funny deal. It was a funny deal, but then result I know I was doing the right thing for the customer. One customer says, "Hey, I didn't get this letter. I didn't get a phone call," and I could not prove that I didn't call him. So you know that one customer is actually still with me. He actually switched to the other company after it was explained, and I'm the one that encouraged him to call the insurance commissioner, because I says, you know, I believe we did everything correct and accurate, but please call the insurance commissioner. So to me, that's transparency. I encourage this person to call the insurance commissioner.
You then had to open up your practices to the insurance commissioner's office and say, this is how it happened, and these are the steps we took or should have taken.
Yes. It was really kind of it was an interesting experience. Should I have been fined? I was fined and I paid it. And interesting with government, the Washington State Insurance Commissioner, you get a fine when you get a final reading on it. What they'll end up doing is saying, if you don't agree with this, you can argue it. But if you argue it and lose, we have the right to possibly take away your insurance license. So it's like, wait, I don't agree with you, but I can't argue my case. And they were like, well, yeah, you can, but we have the right then to come back and take your insurance license. I'm like, well, you guys, this isn't fair. Let me argue my case.
And that's the kind of risk that encourages one to enter a consent decree like the one you did.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, sign it or we might do worse to you. And it's like, oh my goodness. It was a frustrating deal, which was actually good because I know I was doing the right for the customer, but it's actually good to actually know that the government fails. That's a failure in the government. I have no issue with that. We're talking about insurance, but there's a long-term care insurance that you're mandated now to your paychecks and stuff like that. And I put a website called I called it long-term tax. The insurance commissioner's office called me, told me I had to take it down. I said, no, I don't have to put it down. This is wrong for what we're doing. I don't believe in it. If you live in Oregon, these are interesting discussions, but if you live in Oregon, but you get paid in Washington from Boeing, for example, or California, some of the checks coming, so the tax comes out and it's 100% impossible for you to ever collect it. Well, where's the fairness in that? If you worked here for 35 years and you decide to go to sunny Arizona, 100% for sure you can never collect on that. That's just the facts. But since you brought up my business and insurance, so you know I've been doing it for like 35 years or so. I sold 25% to another agent that's been with me for 15 years who's running it great. I'm retiring January 1st. The new mayor has to be 100% committed to this city. The city's too big and it's too important. So I'm actually retiring January 1st. So, yeah.
What do you think is the state of Wenatchee right now, Mike?
The state of Wenatchee needs a strong leader it is tough. It is tough for every city. And I believe most cities, and there's no exception. This is tough. And it's tough because we're used to certain things. Some people say, hey, we don't want to grow anymore, but yet there's state laws out there that says we do have to grow, and we have to bring in so much land and use into the city. It's frustrating. This is a tough commitment, and you're going to have knowledge. You have to have knowledge to know how to get financing to finish Confluence Parkway. And it's going to have to be a mayor that can go to legislation and explain their case. And the situation in Wenatchee this is perfect timing for me, to be honest with you, because I'm like all in. And that's what's going to be nice, nice, because I actually have goals, dedication, and that's what's going to be nice. And I have the knowledge. And that's what's fun. It's very exciting and fun, but we're in a position, we're in a pendulum right now. We're in a position of which direction are we going to go here.
And you want to be the full-time mayor who makes sure it goes in the right direction.
100%. It's kind of fun. I got my wife, I'm married 37 years. Hopefully I'm not off on that. 37 years, and I have 3 daughters, and all 3 of them live here in the city of Wenatchee, so you know. They're all college graduates. 2 of them are special ed teachers in our school system, and the other one's going to end up being an engineer. So the timing's good because the kids are on their own. They got their own families, except my youngest. She's living with us. But they got their own families. We got a strong base. So I have all the support of my family, and a lot of leaders of this. So this is a great opportunity for me to commit totally for my next 4 years. Yeah, and we need it, and the city needs that. We need this as a community. We need total commitment for the next mayor. And I'm not saying Mayor Kuntz, again, is endorsing me. I'm not saying he's didn't commit, but it's time that you cannot have another job. You need to concentrate totally and be out and do the right thing for our community.
Now, we've mentioned transparency several times, so you can't say that again. But aside from transparency, what does a city like Wenatchee owe to its citizens?
Everything. That's our responsibility. That's the only reason we should function, is because we have obligations. We can talk about streets, sewer connections, make sure we got high quality water, but this is it. I mean, the city shouldn't function unless they're functioning for our community. And it doesn't mean you're going to agree with everything, but hopefully, matter of fact, if you agree with everything, there's something wrong. And people that agree with me 100%, like, yes, 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 and then they ask a question, and I always say yes, don't vote for me. Because we need people out there that will question what we're doing and sit there and say, you need to look at this, and then you need a mayor that'll actually say, okay, let me hold back, let me get some research, let me see where we're at on this. And sometimes the answer is going to come back and says, no, Jefferson, we don't think this is right for the city. But most of the time, I think we're all on the same page. We just need to figure out how to get there.
Mike Poirier, candidate for mayor of Wenatchee. Thanks a lot for sitting down with us.
Yeah, this has been great. Thank you.
You're watching the NCW Life channel.